Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Biteable, the bite-sized podcast for your brain. My name's Sierra, and today we're going to be talking about gaming. Now, I mentioned in the pilot episode or the teaser that I have gamed for most of my life. I grew up, sitting on my dad's knee watching him play video games since I was knee high to a grasshopper, like 5, 6 years old. So for me, growing up with my dad playing games and enjoying them and actually being in IT and building our own computers, I had a lot of exposure to that growing up. And it's something that even to this day, I absolutely love. I have a PC, which I game off of. I also have a PS4, which I game off of. I grew up having, you know, PlayStations, Xboxes, Dreamcasts, GameCubes. I kind of had a collection of everything because we just liked to have as many platforms to game on as we could. Now that I'm older, I pretty much just have my PC and my PlayStation, but my fiance also has a VR headset, which is a lot of fun. But today I wanted to mostly focus on the specific genre of gaming that I like, which is RPG. So the very first game that I remember my dad ever showing me was actually Diablo. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever. You run around, you get potions, you fight bad guys, crazy, disgusting monsters. And I thought that was just so cool. It was this whole other world that you got to explore, but from the comfort of your own home and without diving into a book, which I loved reading, but still it was a different way to kind of, expand your horizons, get your imagination really going, and just interact with something new and something different and see a world that, other people created and interact with that. And one of the reasons why I love RPG gaming is that, or RPG games, specifically role playing games. For those of you who don't know what RPG stands for, it is role playing game. But one of the reasons why I love it is because it really takes that or really focuses on that story aspect. Really makes you dive into that world, that person that you're playing, and forces you to like have that perspective of that person. And it's, of course, some of them are just fighting and hack and slash and you know shoot people and whatnot, and that's all well and fun, but I just love that role playing aspect of it. And so that's why I wanted to talk about it today, because those are my favorite types of games. So to tell you a little bit more about specifically role playing games, they can be anything from, actual video games that you play on like a computer or a console of some kind, or they can also be live action. People do role playing adventures in person. It's called LARPing, live action role playing. Which I've never done, but seems pretty fun. You essentially make your character run off into the woods with a whole bunch of other people and fight them, I think. I've never done it, so I can't really say. There's also tabletop gaming, which one that's been around for many, many years is Dungeons and Dragons, which my fiance and I like to play sometimes, which is great. That is essentially they created like this world. You can buy books for it. There's lore and history, and they have guides to how to create certain types of characters. And it's a lot of fun because you get to create your person in this world and then go play that with other people. It's a lot of fun to do with, maybe 5 or 6 people. You can do less as long as there's at least you and a dungeon master. That's the person who runs the adventure. Then, you can do a duet. That's what it's called when it's just 2 people, you and the dungeon master. And anything more than that, you're just part of like a normal party or story. And it's a lot of fun. We go to them every now and again, and they have like this persistent world that you essentially, like, your character just lives in that world, and the dungeon masters sign off on that. And that's a lot of fun because you get to go on these adventures with other random people who sign up for this. And you, for one night, you just go on an adventure as this other person that you created. And sometimes it's great, sometimes it sucks. It depends on the adventure and how you respond to things. And that's one thing that I really like about RPGs is a lot of it is obviously the role playing element. You get to decide how things go, how the story progresses. It's that choice that you get to make. It's sort of like it is not sort of, it's a choose your own adventure, which is so much fun. I'm a bit more partial to fantasy because I like, dragons and magic and sword. Well, swords are real, but you know what I mean. Like I like the fantastical. It's just so fun. Like, your imagination is honestly the limit. Whatever you can think, and even beyond that, is what you get to do in that world. If you want to tame a dragon and become the queen of a continent, then you can do so. Sure, why not? Figure out how to make that happen. And so not only can you do that in like video games, you can do that with tabletop games like Dungeons and Dragons, or in like live action role plays. I would assume you can do that. Uh, it's essentially the same thing, but in person. And I wanted to just kind of like dive into that a little bit because it's something that I love to this day, and I wanted to share that. So to get back to the very first video game that I ever played was Diablo. And at the time, I thought it was the scariest thing. One of the very first, or the very first boss that you ever encounter is a guy named the Butcher in this dungeon. And the first time I tried to play the game, I encountered him and I ran screaming. I thought it was the scariest thing. I could not do it. I tried like 12 times to beat this guy, and he's not even actually that hard to kill, but it was just so scary because the animation, it's top down, so you're looking down at your character and the map, and you see all the enemies and the world. And like, so his animation at the time was just this, fat butcher man in like a white kind of like tank top with an apron, and he was going after you with a cleaver, if I remember correctly. And I just thought that was the scariest thing. I was all of like pretty short. I don't know. I was very young. I remember being like, the house that we were living in, I think I was in grade 2 or something like that. I probably shouldn't have been allowed to play that game. I really shouldn't have. It was quite scary, and it's uh the name is Diablo. It's kind of like hell themed. But I was playing it. Whatever. But I remember it being terrifying. And for years, I just remembered that because it was so scary, and I could never beat the Butcher. And so I just avoided playing it because I didn't think I could do it because it was so scary. It was so like realistic in my mind that, I was running through this dungeon killing these monsters, and here was this huge butcher that was trying to kill me. And all I could do was run away from it and try not to be killed in the process. And I think like a few years ago, I revisited the game because obviously I'm older, wiser, more mature. And I did end up killing him, which was very like, I got so much satisfaction from it. I felt so proud of myself. And then I was like, wait, why am I so hung up on this? Because it's the very first boss of a game that, came out in 1997, actually. So yeah, quite old. And yeah, I mean, it just goes to show, like, for me, like, growing up with games, it's you look back on how they, like, which ones really reach out to you and which ones kind of like, had that impact and really stayed with you. And for me, that's the first game that I remember actually being exposed to and sitting there watching my dad play it and then playing it myself. It's like I love it because it invokes that memory, that emotion. It like, gets me excited. I love video games and being able to explore these vast worlds and then, share that with other people online. And that's one thing that I love about video games is the community. There's so many people all around the world who play the same games. And even if there's, language barriers or, time differences, you can still have that connection because you have a game to play and you're experiencing the same game, but in different ways. And like, there's some things that may stick out to you, others that may not. And like, I haven't played Diablo in years. There's been subsequent games that, are really good, but I haven't really delved into them. But it always kind of comes to mind as one that is so cool and just makes me think of my dad and, learning how to play video games and having that bonding moment with him where we would have a new game to play and that would be so exciting. Or we'd, go out and buy the new console that came out because of course you can't just have the last year's Xbox 360. Who even has that anymore? You have to get the new one. But things like that just really make me happy to enjoy video games, and that's part of the reason why I love them so much. And even as I get older, I still find that I enjoy them. It's amazing the direction that video games are going in and what they're doing with them. There's so many more genres now than just RPGs. There's strategy, tactical. There's massive multiplayer online games, which is just crazy how many people you can have playing one game at one time. It's amazing. There's VR now as well, like I mentioned earlier. Just the way the whole industry is moving forward and always trying to do something new and take that next step is, I think, just the coolest thing, because I love progress, and how can you not be inspired by people doing new and exciting things? Like, I cannot wait until VR is at the point where you can just, put a thing on and then you're in that world and it feels like it's your body and you can like run around and do stuff. That's so cool. And so another thing that I wanted to talk about with gaming is that it's just so accessible nowadays. Not only, you don't have to just have a computer like back in the day when it was first something, that came out with computers. Either, your phone is a crazy thing that you can just download a game on it and play within minutes or seconds. It's absolutely amazing how accessible it is. You don't have to spend hundreds or thousands of dollars on this gaming rig or on a console. You can pick up your phone, which pretty much everybody has a phone, even if it's an old one. They have built-in games, like Minesweeper or Snake or Solitaire is such a classic game that I swear everybody on the planet has played it at least once. I'd be amazed if there's somebody who hasn't played Solitaire. Shout out to that person. But yeah, like just the fact that it's so accessible, all you have to do is have some kind of electronic device and you can play. There's no barrier. There's for most games, there's very little learning that has to be done. It's just pick up a controller, pick up your phone, and start tapping away, start going. And that's one thing that I love about it. And I mean, yes, it can be argued that you are kept inside more, but with your phone, you can go for a walk and still play a game. There's like Pokemon Go, you can walk around and interact with the world around you through this game. There's plenty of them like that nowadays. And so I think or from my perspective as a gamer, the stigma behind, games are keeping you at home and inside and lazy, depending on what type of game you play. Maybe I will not lie and say there has not been days where I've spent all day glued to a chair, playing this game. It's definitely happened. Um, but at the same time, I also love going outside and I have taken my phone and gone and play games outside. So it's really just, how much you like how you interact with it. Um, but even still, I it's one of those things that I love. I'm going to be that granny who is, you know, hopefully talking to my grandkids about the latest cool game, and they're going to be like, yeah, grandma, whatever, I'll beat you in this game. And I'll be like, listen, you whippersnapper, I've been playing games longer than you were alive. I want to be that kind of grandma. That'd be great. But yeah, I'm excited to see where, gaming goes, what the next newest things are for genres and the different, gaming studios that are out there and what they're developing. I don't see myself stopping gaming anytime soon. It's too large of a part of like what I enjoy and who I am, for me to ever fully stop gaming. So let me know, what games you guys like, which platforms, what kind of genres. I'd love to hear about it. If you guys want to email me, the email is biteable.to@gmail.com. Also, follow me on Instagram. It is biteable.to. And definitely like and subscribe the YouTube videos. You can find me on YouTube. It's biteable.to. And yeah, thanks so much for joining me today, guys. And I look forward to next week. Have a good one. Bye.